Well, we've been through a lot this past few years, haven't we? In our world, our countries, our church, even our own hearts have been bruised in many ways. But amidst all that's gone on, we've put all that aside and left it at the doors of the church before we came in, right? And we've gathered here together this morning. Each of us come into this sacred place in the presence of Jesus Christ in search of hope and some peace when, for many, our anxious minds have gotten the best of us. Some joy when it seems that we haven't had much to smile about lately. And maybe it's some love when it seems like our hearts feel somewhat broken. Each of us has come here this morning carrying our own burdens and weariness to seek Jesus Christ. And as we journey closer to Christmas, as the nights grow cold and the days get colder, we'll prepare our hearts for Jesus by seeking the true hope, the peace and love that only can be found in Jesus Christ. So beginning today, and on each of the Sundays leading up to Christmas, we'll celebrate one of these themes. Because what more could we ever seek than those great gifts, Jesus Christ, this Christmas? This morning, we'll begin our journey with the theme of seeking hope. So I invite you, if you're willing to do so, to close your eyes for a few seconds. And just think, what are you hoping for this Christmas? Maybe you're hoping for good health and healing, a more loving relationship with others, a better job or financial security. Maybe you're hoping to see someone you haven't seen for a long time. Or just a little bit of courage to heal your worried mind. Or to be forgiven for an awful mistake you may have made. Or to forgive someone who seriously hurt you. Maybe you're hoping for just simply a second chance, a fresh start. So, you can open your eyes now. Regardless of what you just called to mind, hope begins from a position of need or weariness or loss. No one ever hopes for things to get better when everything seems to be going well, right? Our gospel this morning doesn't exactly sound all that joyful and Christmassy, does it? Doesn't sound like anything that we'd expect as we're leading up to Christmas. It's frightening. It's unnerving. Read it again. You'll see what I'm talking about. And yet, Jesus invites us all to begin seeking hope. He tells us that nations will be in dismay. People will be frightened and shaken to their very core. In many ways, it sounds somewhat familiar, doesn't it? With all that's going on in our world. And I'm sure we've had some moments when it felt like our world was just crashing down upon us. Moments when we were perplexed or confused or angry or scared or just lost, right? For some people, it's easy to hope for an answer that will solve their problems. To hope for that magic cure that will make everything wonderful again. Seems to just help them carry on in their day. But, as we all know, life is far from perfect. And no matter how many answers or solutions we may seek, they can only bring comfort and security and peace of mind for a very limited time. There will always be a new challenge to face or a new obstacle to overcome. And we're all very familiar with that as well. But you see, as Catholics, when we say the word hope, We don't mean some kind of cure-all magic remedy for everything that's gone wrong. No, our hope, it's not about sitting in church, closing our eyes, and wishing every struggle or challenge away. It's something altogether different. Christian hope, among many things, are these: remembrance of God's goodness in the past, trust in God's goodness in the present, and confidence in God's continued goodness in the future. For as uncomfortable as our gospel may have been today, it seems to be countered by the encouraging words of the first reading. And God said, "Behold, the days are coming where I will fulfill every promise I make to you. I will care for you, just as I have always done. I will protect you, just as I've always done. I will always do what's right and just by you, just as I've always done." How consoling, right? So, let's take another few seconds, and if you'd like, close your eyes, and call to mind a time in your life when you felt most confident, secure, unafraid, a moment when you felt closest to God. Was it the day that you married the love of your life? The first time you held your son or daughter in your arms? The first time you laid eyes on your grandchild? Maybe it was an act of great generosity, a moment of deep prayer, consolation, and contemplation. Or maybe it's a time when someone you love went to great lengths to help you in your time of need. You can open your eyes if you'd like. Regardless of who or what you just called to mind, it was a memory of God's goodness working in your life. A single moment when God's love and care was immensely present to you. These are experiences of Christian hope. Our God has made a solemn promise to every single one of us. He promised that He'd never abandon us. He promised that He would always do what was right and just, that we would always be safe, that He would always care for us, that no matter how many mistakes that we've made in our lives, no matter how broken or bruised our world might be, God would never abandon us. Today, like every other day, God has kept His promise. So, when we say that we hope, we say that we remember. Rather than looking blindly into the future for God to fix everything that's wrong, we look gratefully into the past to remember the good things that God has done, and all the good gifts and the graces that He's given us. This remembrance of God's goodness in the past gives us reason to have trust in God's goodness amidst our present trials, and gives us confidence in God's continued goodness in whatever challenges we face or may possibly face in the future. Remembrance of God's goodness in the past is what gives us hope for brighter days in our future. So, when it seems like our world is crashing down upon us, and we're perplexed and confused and angry and scared, etc., remember that single moment that you thought of just a minute ago. Remember that good that God has worked in your life. Therein lies your true hope for the future. So, if it's true and everlasting hope you seek this Christmas, seek Jesus Christ, who came into this world to share in our humanity and deeply, deeply desires for us to share in his divinity. So as you reflect upon this picture, picture someone that you know. Somebody that you know that's been going through a tough time, a real difficult time. Someone who's had a lot of struggles. We all know those folks. Picture that person's face right now in your mind's eye. And now, before we gather again for Mass next Sunday, let's take some time to reach out to that person. Doesn't take much, right? Especially if we know they're hurting. It's our call to do so. And it doesn't matter how we do it. You can shoot them a text, you give them a call, write them a note. Something to let them know that they have someone who genuinely cares about them. Because there are people out there who really believe that no one cares about them and that there isn't much hope. So just as when we remember God's goodness in our lives from the past, it gives us hope for brighter days in the future, doesn't it? Let's give that person a little bit of God's goodness to remember while they're facing their struggles and challenges in their lives. Let's give them a reason to be hopeful, because we know there is. And in giving them a little bit of hope this week, we'll bring a little peace to our own hearts as we continue seeking peace together next week.